found it interesting, by the way, that we are 16 to 17%, which is roughly the same on the Fortune 500 for board seats and management positions. Interesting. And if you were to study these people, you would find many of them, by the way, went to, oh yeah, single-sex high schools, grammar schools, or colleges. Interesting. So I flashed to religion. Now, I'm not doing that because I'm a religious fanatic, but I looked at this, and then there's quite a bit of controversy about how many Christians there are, how many Muslims there are, how many Buddhists there are. So just counting the adherents and then defining a religion is a hard task. This was one of the best charts I could find, and I did it for a point, and the point is as follows. Religion matters, not so much because you practice it, don't, because some religions don't treat women the same as they treat men. You need to be aware of that. Just for a fun fact, only 7% of your fellow countrymen and women have used a passport. How many of you have not ever used a passport? Precisely. So in other words, you are not the group. You are walking around thinking everybody in the United States is just like you. Guess what? They are not. They don't have a clue what is happening outside our country. A clue. It's a problem. Because they're the same people who are voting in or out of office, people that you may or may not want to support. These same religions, some who are fair, some who are not, practice polygamy. It's outlawed in most jurisdictions, except it's still being practiced. And I'm not talking about here in this country. I'm talking about in sub-Saharan Africa, some of the islands where it's 57% or 77%. It's a big deal. You need to figure that out. You need to be aware of it. You need to be talking about it. HIV, AIDS. Think of Africa. It wasn't many years ago that the President of the United States, George W. Bush, would not give money for aid to Africa in the absence of essentially moving off of condoms as a construct. But then he upped the ante, which was great, to $15 billion, and more recently upped it again. Except still, family planning is a big deal. So only part of the money is actually being invested. Well, for those of you who have been in Africa, you know that you go into a restroom, whether you're male or female, there's a bucket. And the bucket is filled with condoms. They don't get married until they have kids. And in the meantime, roughly between 35 and 45 million Africans have lost their lives to AIDS because of not being aware. There's another 35 or so million today, who have tested positive. It's a big deal. A really big deal. It's a mega trend. We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
You're telling me you can only give our guys 45?
So guess what? We can't afford to allow the current state to exist in perpetuity. The progress we are making is not quick enough. One of the traits of great leaders is an appropriate amount of impatience and believing in the art of the impossible, not the science of the possibilities. Oh, what did he say? That would be Eugene Kranz. Failure is not an option. But he also said, I don't care what it was designed to do. I want to know what it can do. What can you do? Here's some really good facts. I love this. By 2010, women will control more than $13 trillion in private wealth in the United States. $13 trillion. If you guys can't make a business out of this, I don't know what you're doing. That's just 3 years away. Let me tell you one story about my son, who's now 26. But when he was 17, he had been dating a young woman, great gal, for about a year, his entire junior year. They get to their senior year. They realize they're applying to different colleges. He thinks he's in control of his relationship with this young woman and says to her, as they're applying to schools one night, thinking about applying to schools, you know, I think we should date other people when we go away to college. Within a week, she was dating one of his best friends. Crushed him. For a week, he was moping around the house, knocking things over, being snippety with his sisters, and one day I heard him yelling or snapping at his mom or sister, I forget which. And I could hear it from the other room, and he's coming through the family room, and he's 6'2". I am not. And I grabbed him and I said, hey, Will, you have a few seconds? Sure. I said, well, you know, I realize that you're really upset about the situation with Karen. I got to tell you, I need to take a few seconds and just tell you how I see it. Do you remember when your sister Kate, who's 19 months older than he is, was in 8th grade? Yeah, Dad. He's just shaking his head. Well, remember how all the girls were more or less about a head taller and fully developed than the boys? Except for one or two exceptions? Yeah, Dad, I remember that. What's that have to do with that? Just bear with me, Will. Remember when they were in 10th grade, it looked like everybody caught up with one another? Yeah. I said, remember you in 8th grade? Come on, Dad, where are you going? I said, well, just bear with me. Remember when you were in 8th grade? Yep. Same thing, right? Yep. 10th grade, right? Same thing, right. Well, here's the really bad news, Will. Men die trying to catch up. Dad! What's my point? We are not in control. You have more control than we do. The odds are in your favor. There's more of you. You live longer. You are the matriarchs. You are controlling, oh yes, 80% of the family purchasing decisions. Why aren't you using that muscle? Why? There's books being written. The $1 Trillion Mom. Read that book. It's a great book. Women start businesses twice as fast as men do today in this country and have been for a decade. In fact, just for fun, here's a chart. And they're growing businesses. They would be you. You. So what's your star? So we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about servant leadership. Now, just a couple thoughts about servant leadership. By the way, you'll figure out that I like quotes. Nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. Has servant leadership as a construct for organizational behavior in our country arrived as a profound insight? You'll see in a minute that at least a few people think it has. You'll hear my personal view on why you need to be paying attention to this. I have actually, as a result of reading this book years ago, had occasion to be in, not meetings like this, but meetings where I'm sitting around, for example, more recently than not, in Motorola as the acting CFO. Meeting people, doing round bag lunches, round tables, and I would ask invariably, everybody go around, tell me your name, how long you've been with the company, and what job you have. And you need to do it in like 30 seconds. People would then go through this drill, get to me, and I would say, I work for you. Your job is to lead me. That's not to say I'm not willing to be boss. I will be boss. But you are so much closer to the decisions that need to be taken day to day that you need to feel empowered. Take them.